One, the first stanza, 320. Aham nago sangame japato patitang sarang ativakyang titikhisang dussilo hi bahujjano aham nago sangame japato patitang sarang ativakyang titikhisang dussilo hi bahujjano. Meaning, as an elephant in the battlefield withstands the arrows shot from above, even so will I endure abuse. Verily, most people are undisciplined. Here there are two things. The attitude of the Buddha and how he explained the nature of human mentality. These two things. Aham nago. Naga means elephant. Aham nago sangame. Sangame means battlefield. I stand firmly in the middle of the battlefield. Sangame. Because both sides, when they start to fight, they shoot arrows. Because those days, no bullets or machine guns, they shoot arrows. So I had to suffer from the arrows shot on the both sides, this side and that side. But I never run away from the battlefield. That is my attitude. My duty is to face the problems, to overcome the problems, and if possible, to settle the problem. Otherwise, I never run away from the battlefield for my safeguard. Again he says, Ativakyam titikhisang dussilo hi bahujjano. Dussila means without any discipline. Sila means discipline. Dussila without any discipline. Many people have no discipline. That is why we had to face so many problems and troubles and disturbances. That is why they create violence and bloodshed. They have no discipline. That word, discipline, gives so many meanings. Our behavior. There's one particular word which is called behaviorism. It is also an ism, behavior. How we behave. In our behavior, we had to discipline three things. Discipline our mind, discipline our words, discipline our action. So when we use the word discipline, as human beings, we had to practice this in different places, in different ways. At home, there are certain disciplines, especially parents and elders have to practice not to mislead the younger generation, young people or children. They should not behave in such a way by using or by adapting any immoral or vulgar or wicked or cruel attitude, because children are watching. Nowadays, television programs created a lot of damages to young people's mind. Having seen killing and shooting and torturing, the fear of killing and destroying completely disappeared from their mind. Later, they think that this is a part of their life. When you go to certain countries, how young people behave, you can understand. They have no sympathy, they have no compassion, they have no understanding any cruel or wicked thing they can do for fun, just to enjoy. For example, I have heard in certain Western countries how children enjoy when a stray dog is sleeping. They go there with petrol and pour and set fire to see how this dog, struggle for survival. They enjoy it. So human mind is corrupted up to that extent. On many occasions we approach the government also that certain television programs, certain things that we have regarded as immoral according to our culture, our way of life. But in the modern society, they are not immoral, they are very common. But they never think, because of this thing that they expose too much, young people have gone beyond the limit by violating, disturbing and behaving very indecent manner. That's what the Buddha here says, Dussilohi bahujjano. Many people have no discipline. It is not necessary to have a religion to maintain, to uphold discipline. As human beings, they can understand how to maintain human dignity, not to do certain things by violating their humane qualities. Now, when we observe precept or seal or discipline, there are three ways for us to uphold. First thing, by considering as human beings, it is very disgraceful. We disgrace our human dignity by behaving like this. Therefore, we try to avoid. So, by considering in this way, as human beings, we should not behave like animals or some other living beings. So there are certain qualities, virtues, principles for us to uphold. Our forefathers have been practicing these things because they had shame and fear. But today, shame and fear deteriorating from the human mind. Then the second method is by thinking the precept that we have undertaken, promise. I promise not to kill, not to steal, and go on reciting like this. That is called observance of precept. 5 precepts, 8 precepts, 10 precepts. So, when such ideas appear in the mind, if there is no any other way for us to understand that it is wrong, then think, oh, I am upholding, I am observing the precept. Therefore, it is not advisable for me to break these precepts. Whether I can appreciate it or not, it is my duty not to break the precept or the principles that I promised to uphold. So by thinking the precept that they are, they have observed, then keep away from such bad things. Then the third one is, earlier we have disciplined our mind, we have controlled our senses, we have developed our understanding, then we know why we should keep away from all these things. Because we have developed the mind, we have courage and knowledge and understanding not to do such evil or immoral or wicked things, to break the precept. These are the 3 methods. I repeat. First thing, by considering our human dignity. As human beings, it is our duty to behave in such a way to show we have developed our way of life above the animal's life. That is why we are called humans. Therefore, we should not disgrace, we should not abuse our humane qualities or human dignity. First thing. Second thing, by considering the precept that we have observed. Every time we observe 5 precepts, we promise not to violate or not to break these things, then try our best to uphold. So the third method is, since we have developed, disciplined, trained our mind and our senses, we have knowledge and understanding why we should not violate. This understanding is there. The other day when I was talking about the precept, I told you, not only by keeping away, but by doing something. There are 2 ways, called Charitra Sila and Varitra Sila. Charitra means to do as our duties, responsibilities. Varitra means keep away, abstain. 2 ways. You can say, yes, I abstain, I don't want to do this. I know it is bad. it is not enough. You had to develop further, because many others observe their precept or sila or commandment or religious law because these laws were given by the God. If he break, violate, goes against his will, we will be punished. They know only that much. But the Buddhist attitude is not that much. We have to go beyond that. Should not think only about our punishment. We must understand the dangers, the suffering, miseries, disturbances that we create by violating this. That is the real discipline, that understanding. Then we have to develop in our mind our kindness or compassion or sympathy. Then lot of patience and tolerance. That is the practical side. We have to cultivate those good qualities by keeping away from wicked things. Now, take the second precept. We promise not to steal. Although we say stealing, many more words are included. Stealing, bluffing, swindling, cheating, smuggling, all are included. All right, we don't want to do all these things, but not enough. We have to develop the positive side. What is that? Develop our honesty or sincerity. Be reliable person for others not to suspect. Then people respect. Instead of suspecting, they respect you. When they come to know you are honest. You never bluff, never swindle. Honest people get due credit. All these precepts, we have to consider the negative side as well as the positive side by cultivating and understanding. But when other religionists talk about their religious principles or vows or laws or commandments, what they say, the founder of their religion or the God asks us not to do. So we must obey. If we break this one, the God will punish us. Stop. They never think in what we call sympathetic way. They never consider, never analyze by cultivating their good qualities and virtues and knowledge and understanding. Only think about punishment. If not, say, oh, we may go to hell. If there is no hell, they can do anything. Any kind of cruel, wicked thing they can do because there is no hell. That should not be the attitude. Whether hell exists or not, we must know as human beings how to behave without becoming nuisance to others, without creating enormous sufferings and problems. If the Buddha can say like this, Dussilohi Bahujjana. Bahujjana means many people, majority. Bahujjana, many people. Dussila, no discipline, no sila, no precept. That means if no sila, no precept, no discipline, they are unreliable, they are wicked, they are cruel, and they are immoral. What else? Why the Buddha had to say like this? So when I come to the battlefield to settle this problem, people shoot arrows from both sides. I had to suffer. But I never run away. I have courage. Here, he teaches a very good lesson for us. Not to run away from the battlefield only for our safeguard, without contributing something to settle this problem, settle this suffering, settle this violence. There must be something that we can do. Otherwise, we are very selfish. When you look at the world, we can understand even the good works that we are doing, people cannot appreciate. They criticize or accuse or blame or condemn because they cannot tolerate either jealousy or narrow-mindedness. They must ask some sort of remarks. The other day I have mentioned, the Buddha has said, people always pass remarks on others. They can see the mistake done by others, but they never think or they cannot see the mistake committed by them. Always talk ill of others. Very seldom people can appreciate others' good work or attitude. There is some sort of intolerance in our human mind that we must say something. To criticize or to condemn, to show that we are higher than them. That is our strong egoism. That egoism is the biggest enemy that we have. This egoism does not allow us to admit our own mistake. Always try to justify. Although we know we are wrong, although we know we have committed all these bad things, still we try to tell others that we are right. That is egoism. This egoism completely ruins our life because never allow us to admit our weaknesses to correct. Because of that egoism, we never try to correct, to change our attitude. But great people always appreciate when others pointed out their weaknesses. Swami Vivekananda, one of the great scholar and Swami, Hindu Swami, says, I have learned to climb up to the top. At the same time, I have learned how to come down to the bottom. What he says, although I have developed my life, my knowledge, my wisdom, my understanding, could manage to climb up to the higher stage, I never show others that I am a great man. I can behave as a very humble, very simple man. That is what he says. I know how to come down to the bottom, to behave as a very simple, very humble man. We try to show off that we are big people, we are rich people, we are learned people, by adapting certain attitude to glorify. Here, pride and egoism, these two are related. Not much difference between pride and egoism. They are twins. One contributes to the other. Because of this, we create some sort of illusion in our mind. Then that illusion blocks our lens in the mind, become dark, then cannot see things properly. We maintain only our own imagination. If we can remove this darkness or dust from the lens of our mind, then we can see things clearly. After that we can understand our mistake. What we do, our egoism and pride cover the lens of the mind. Then we cannot see. Maintain our own imagination. You know, when a crocodile opens the mouth, automatically close the eyes. You can see every time when crocodile opens the mouth, cannot see anything, blind. Exactly, we become blind, create illusion, imagination, because of that strong egoism. And observing precept, sila, discipline, we try to be humble and simple. And why do people wear white dress when they observe precept? Because they want to be humble. No decorations, no ornaments, no jewelries, no extra gadgets, only piece of cloth, white color. And why do monks wear a dress like this? This is not a dress. If you go to the Western countries wearing like this, I told you the other day, they're ridiculous. They cannot understand what is this, what kind of dress is this. I don't know whether you can remember that one reverend who is in Washington. One day he was waiting at the bus stand to travel by bus, and a black American came and watched. He uses the very dirty word. What a bloody hell country that you come from, man. Why can't you wear a decent dress? You see, we have to face this kind of remarks. But that is his feeling. But on the other hand, there are some people, very seldom we come across, who know how to appreciate. I remember one day when I was traveling by train in England, a European lady who was seated in front of me, she was watching for a short while. And she told me, it's very attractive. She told me, very attractive. Very soothing to the mind. The color. Can you tell me actually why you have chosen this color? It's a very good question. The Buddha has introduced this by considering very deeply. When the fruits or the leaves of a tree fully matured, ripened, change into this color. After that, the fruits and the leaves drop from the tree. That means no attachment to that particular tree. That is renunciation. When the fruits or leaves drop from the tree, that means the renunciation, no attachment to it. When turn into this color, that means maturity, ripened. That means more knowledge, more understanding. Then decided to develop detachment, not attachment toward the worldly thing. This color indicates this. Then this is what a wonderful explanation. Then what happened? I told her, we were traveling by train car. I wanted to go to that particular Buddhist society, but I do not know where to get down. Then she showed me the map. You must get down from this station. If you cannot understand what I can do, although I had to get down earlier, I will go with you up to that station, then I will come back. Believe me, she went with us to show this is the station that you have to get down, then she had to come back by the other trains. See, she was convinced, according to our explanation. They know how to appreciate. So, these sayings of the Buddha is actually very important for us to consider. Just now I mentioned two ways. First thing, we should not run away when others are creating troubles and problems and difficulties and violence and bloodshed and shouting. Try to see whether there is anything that you can do. Then either go and say something or do something. If they are not ready to listen to you, your advice. Then the Buddha says again this. Susukhang vata jivama verinesu averinu. Verinesu manussesu viharama averinu. Let us live happily and peacefully amongst those who fight, those who hate, those who quarrel, without joining with them, without contributing anything for their violence or quarrelings or accusing or blaming or fighting. You can maintain your peace in your mind without contributing anything to flare up, to aggravate the situation. This is another advice. That is also practical. That means First you try to contribute something to settle this problem. Did not work because they are not ready to listen to you. Then, without developing hatred or anger or anything toward them, you keep away from them, you can maintain your peace in your mind. Again he says, Noche labetha nipakang sahayang sadhin charang kag eka viharka. Eko chare khagga visanaka. This is also practical. If you cannot find out suitable person for you to associate, trustworthy person, reliable person, to associate, to work together, to live together, eko chare khagga visanaka. You can live alone without joining with others. Because the more you associate with them, the more they disturb you. You cannot maintain peace and happiness. But if you stay alone, nobody to disturb you. There are many people always come and complain about their relatives, about their family members, about their friends, all sort of problems and troubles and misunderstanding, enmity. So the Buddha said that if you think it is difficult for you to live with them, work with them, associate with them, keep away from them without developing your hatred or anger towards them. Live alone. There was a very notorious monk. He was the Buddha's personal attendant when he was Prince Siddhartha, Chanda. He followed him when he renounced the world, but he come back. Later, he also joined the order and became a monk. And he was very adamant, very violent. No one could control him. The Buddha advised him on many occasions. He did not accept his advice. The Buddha also cannot do anything by force. If the other person is not ready to accept, the Buddha cannot do anything. It is like this. When a person is very seriously ill and the receptive power in the organs, the body, already gone, cannot receive anything, the organ. One of the best specialists come and give injections and various drugs and medicine, cannot absorb. So we cannot blame the doctors or specialists because the organs and the physical body is not ready to receive, absorb. By force, no one can do that. Exactly in the same manner, the Buddha or any other great religious teacher can give advice. If people are not ready to listen, to accept the advice, they cannot use by force, introduce this by force. The Buddha also had extraordinary wisdom. There are 6 kinds of extraordinary wisdom only the Buddhas had, nobody else in this world. One of them is to focus the psychic power towards the other's mind to find out whether this person can understand what he is going to talk, whether the mind is ready to accept, he can understand. Then he tried to find out what are the hindrances in his or her mind to understand this. Again he observed whether this person has cultivated, developed the mind to prepare the background in the mind to grasp, to catch this idea into his mind. By considering all these things, he preached, and nobody else can do that. So when he come to know that the minds are not ready, mind cannot absorb, cannot digest, then he never preached. After gaining his wisdom, enlightenment, he wanted to preach. Then he has seen the mentality of the people. Formerly he never had that power to understand others' mind. Then he said, Pāturahosi magadesu pubbe dhammo asuddho samalehi chintito. Not Vimala, Samala. Vimala means clear. Samala means dirty. Pāturahosi magadesu pubbe. This dharma that I understood through my enlightenment existed long ago. This is not a new dharma. But asuddho samalehi tindito. Asuddha means impure, polluted. That dharma had been polluted by the human mind. Samalehi chintito, and dirty. We have dirty. That means more and more immoral, wicked, cruel, stupid ideas influence this dharma. So the real dharma disappeared. They maintain something else in the name of the dharma. Just like Buddhism today. In the name of Buddhism, what sort of method, what sort of practices, what sort of belief people have. But they cannot understand most of these practices go against the basic teachings of the Buddha. These things have been developed, incorporated, introduced by people and the monks from time to time in different countries according to their way of thinking. But they have no knowledge to understand that they are going against the Buddha's teaching. That is what has happened to Dharma. You can understand. Then it is mentioned, Mahabrahma, having seen the Buddha's attitude, he come and requested, appeal, saying there may be even few who can understand the Dharma that you realize. So, requested him to preach. According to my understanding, actually, the Buddha can understand better than Brahma. Therefore, that is, I think that story adapted later to show. Because in that country, people are worshippers of the Brahma. When they announce Brahma came and invited the Buddha to preach, then people accept. Oh, Brahma invited him to preach. But the Buddha's enlightenment and the Brahma's knowledge is entirely different. The Buddha can understand better than the Brahma. So, this is the nature. We are going on polluting the purity of the Dharma, purity of Buddhism, thinking we are practicing Buddhism. You can observe how many groups are there in this country and many other countries. They do a lot of things in the name of the Buddha, in the name of Buddhism.
Different beliefs and ignorance, imaginations, illusions are still active in their mind, because they want to practice by keeping all those dark clouds in the mind. The purpose of attending this kind of Dhamma talk is to get rid of the dark cloud that you maintain in your mind, or what you maintain as truth or reality in religion. After listening what the Buddha taught, these are direct sayings of the Buddha, not introduced by the disciples or anybody else. Direct sayings of the Buddha, recorded by the disciples earlier.
So no distorted wording, the clear Dhamma. Then we feel it is difficult to practice the Dhamma or religion. Yes. Because we have gone far away from the Dhamma, from the religious way of life. Now we experience the difficulty of practicing. So what we are trying to do, to lower the status of the Dhamma and religion according to our way of thinking, according to our way of life. Completely polluted. For the last 2,500 years they have been doing this. Lowering the basic teachings of the Buddha according to their mentality, their way of thinking. So the real Dhamma disappears in their belief, in their practices, but they do a lot of things. So Buddhism is developing all over the world. Dharma is dying. You understand? The Dhamma taught by the Buddha is dying. Buddhism coming up higher and higher, more and more people. What is Buddhism? What people have introduced from time to time in the name of Buddhism. That is called Buddhism. You have to separate these two. What is the Dhamma taught by the Buddha and what is Buddhism that people practice? Again, when you go from this country to that country, you can see the differences. Go to China, go to Korea, go to Japan, go to Mongolia, go to Tibet and Siberia. What they are doing, what they practice. But they say they practice Buddhism. Then go to Sri Lanka, Thailand and Burma. Observe very carefully what they are doing. They believe that they maintain pristine, pure Buddhism. Their Buddhism is not polluted. They say. But when you observe what they are doing, you can understand there are also in those countries a lot of distorted, misinterpreted and wrong practices in the name of Buddhism. Then we can go to the West. England, America, Germany, France. Their way of life is different. They don't like traditional practices. They don't want to follow Asian tradition, Asian culture. cultural practices as religion. Direct approach to the Dharma, not to Buddhism. Direct approach to the Dhamma taught by the Buddha. But only intellectuals can do that. Others can, only educated people can do. That is why all those people who come to Buddhism in the West, all are educated people. They were not converted by others. There is no such thing as conversion. They convert themselves. Actually, we cannot convert another person. You have to convert your own mind. I cannot convert your mind. So that word is wrong, conversion. Then they know how to appreciate. I have a videotape interview in England or America, I do not know, a lot of monks and nuns and members asking very critical questions from Dalai Lama. Now he speaks good English. When he visited here about 10 to 15 years ago, I think, his English knowledge was not so advanced. Now he can speak very good English. And he explained. And very critical approach. And certain loopholes and dark corners in the practices among the monks and the nuns and laymen and laywomen and all those discriminations according to their traditions and their way of life and their knowledge, their understanding. What is the real Buddhist attitude toward this thing? Then Dalai Lama had to answer all these questions. So, here what the Buddha is trying to tell us, many people are, we cannot say cruel or we cannot say wicked, because in another place the Buddha has said, by nature people are not cruel or wicked. By nature they are ignorant. He never said they are sinners or wicked or cruel. They are ignorant. Because of that ignorance, they develop selfish ideas, selfish desire. To entertain this selfish desire, they adopt wrong method. Then things become cruel, wicked, dangerous, and immoral. See, ignorance is the main cause. Because of our ignorance, we create wrong ideas. I think Buddha is right. He never said, by nature people are cruel or wicked or sinful. Here he said, majority do not uphold the discipline. So we cannot say the Buddha is wrong. Just now I told you, you had to observe this, your principle, your discipline, everywhere, wherever you live. At home, certain kind of discipline. Otherwise you spoil the others. So when you come to the temple or place of worship, you had to uphold certain discipline. You cannot behave as you live at home. In the temple, there must be very cultured and very tolerant, some sort of disciplinary behavior to maintain the sacredness of the holy place as well as your dignity, discipline. When you go and mix up with others in the society, or in a party or a dinner or social gathering, or even cocktail party, there must be some discipline for you to uphold. Otherwise, people think you are very uncultured, uncivilized, or barbarian if these principles are not there. So, when you go to other countries, East, the West, they have their own culture, their own way of life. We have to follow. Otherwise, we get into trouble. I can tell you what happened to me when I was in India as a student, monk. I was staying in the hostel with Brahmin students. Brahmins, they cook their food also in the same room where they live. When they cook their food, nobody use slippers or shoes. Must remove, barefooted. Not knowing this, I went to their room when they were cooking food. They are my good friends, wearing my slippers. I did not remove my slippers. Then they scolded me using vulgar words because I have polluted the purity of the atmosphere without removing the shoes. When they cook food, no one can go there. We must know this. So in every country, they have different methods. I had a very good friend in England. Used to correspond with him. He also became a Buddhist after reading our books and always appreciating. So when I went to England, I could manage to get his telephone number and inform him. I am here in London, I would like to see you. Then he asked, is there any particular reason for you to come and see me? You must understand, this is their mentality. Because I just wanted to go and talk to him. There is no particular reason. But they don't like to waste their time for that kind of thing. There must be a particular point. I want to discuss this particular point with you. Then they will say, yes, if I got time, I'll attend. So I did not go there. You must understand this. This is their mentality. When you go to Japan, entirely different. Their way of life. Japanese manners, traditions, way of life. All these things are under discipline. That is why before his passing away, the Buddha has given this advice to the monks. In time to come, you may experience some difficulties to observe all the precepts that I introduce. You will be at liberty to amend, to change certain precepts that I have introduced. Because he knew the world is changing, society is changing, human mentality is changing. So many of those precepts are manners, traditions and customs. They say there are 227 precepts for a monk to observe. You have only 5. So how lucky you are. Now when you analyze these 227 precepts, 75% of these precepts belong to manners, traditions, customs and way of life. These are the things the Buddha says they are changeable. For 22 years, the monks used to take food at night during the Buddha's time. Later, they had some problem. When they go out for their alms round at night time, they had to face some problems. When they reported to the Buddha, then in that case you had to change. Daytime you can eat food, but nighttime not necessary. So the time is not the important thing here. Whether night or day makes no difference to religion. Give up one meal a day, that is the idea. People cannot understand this. It is not the time, day or night. That is the traditional practice at that time in that country. Now let us take a few more precepts. He said, when you eat your food, usually they use their hand, they don't use this thing. you take your rice, before you bring your rice to your mouth, you should not, this is one of the precepts. You can understand what are the precepts. Again he said, after putting in your mouth this rice, you should not talk when the food is in the mouth. These are the precepts. These 275 belong to this kind of thing. People take this so seriously. Oh, there are 275 major precepts. Because people cannot understand. So the Buddha says, from country to country, from time to time, these things are changeable. Even the time of taking food also changeable. So, Buddha was a very compassionate, very liberal-minded religious teacher. He has not introduced any commandment, only precept as advices. He said, according to my own experience, I am telling you. So it is up to you to observe, or you have to take the responsibility. So when you observe the world, we can understand what the Buddha says. Many people have no discipline. When you go to the town, we can see how people destroy public property for fun. They don't gain anything, but their habit is to destroy. That's why there is no discipline, there is no understanding. So we have to train our mind to uphold this kind of discipline so that each and every person can live without fear, without disturbances, without having an insecurity feeling. Now everybody is shivering. Why? Who come and disturb them? Devil? Ghost? Animals? No. Ghost, of course, you create. Certain period you reserve, this is the ghost period. That is your discovery. Ghosts do not know anything about that. You create this. But very hard for you to get rid of this belief, because thousands of years people maintain this belief, so this concept crystallizes in your mind, cannot melt. Whatever education you had, whatever religion you practice, when that time comes, oh yes, I heard very funny noise last night, I think they are coming up. Come and tell us what to do. Pity on them actually, Fear and imagination. Because with that suspicion, with that fear, when they keep quiet, they can hear something. Oh yes. Where the cats jump from they come and knock at the door. All these are imagination. The Buddha wanted to help us to get rid of this kind of fear. Unnecessary fear, suspicion created by our mind due to our ignorance. The knowledge, the Dhamma, knowledge is important for us to get rid of this kind of thing, to maintain our human dignity, not to behave like small children, childish attitude. Children are scared of so many things because they cannot understand. But we are matured, we have education, we have religion, we have learned so many things, but still we maintain this kind of ideas and beliefs because of our ignorance. So beside this, human behaviorism is very dangerous. Deteriorating, going down and down and down. Animals have some discipline. You can see when the flock of cows walk, say 100 cows, the one who was walking on the front, when stop, all the others, just like military march, they have stopped, all the cows stop. See what sort of discipline they have. Animals. All these crows, they have their own discipline. They know how to protect their property. 1 week ago, I was walking under the Bodhi tree area, early morning. I get up about 6:30, go round and around, then one crow come and attack my head off. I knew the reason. Because when they lay egg around that area, they don't want anybody to go that way. They come and attack. See how they protect. This is the second time I had this experience. This is my boat, attack this. They too have their own, what you call, way of life to protect their property and to maintain. Why do they want to get up so early? I can see before 6:30, crows are making noise. What are they going to do? Why do they want to get up so early? Go to office? What do they do when they come out? When they come down, you can see birds, how they sing, how they dance, how they enjoy. But when we get up, see our faces early morning. Because we are so tired, the whole day and night we are going on overtaxing our mental energy through the senses. So mind has no energy, wasted. But these animals and birds, they never waste their energy for unnecessary. There is a proper time for them to go to bed, proper time for them to get up. They have system. But we have no time. Daytime or night time. Night time is for us to relax and sleep, not to go here and there and work. Daytime we can work, but we have changed because we are greedy, we are crazy, our desire is so strong, we cannot tolerate. Then invited so many troubles, so many sicknesses, so many develop our jealousy and anger, then fightings and quarreling and declaring war and attack others and other countries. All these things are due to our impatience, too much of selfish desire. We cannot satisfy what we have, more than enough, cannot satisfy. We have gone beyond that limit to entertain our craving. Those who have few millions still want to collect and dump and dump and dump, but they do not know for what purpose they are collecting. That is the nature of craving. By bluffing and cheating, still they want to collect. This is ignorance. So, remember these sayings of the Buddha. Ahang nago sangame chapato patitang saram. Dussilo hi bahudya. Many people have no discipline in this world. So everybody is facing problems. Those who try to be good become their victims. Those who are kind, those who are honest, they take the advantage. Then they get into trouble. So the good qualities, the virtues, kindness, honesty, we had to use with intelligence and understanding. Remember, otherwise you had it. The kindness without understanding, they are called kind-hearted fools. Yes, they are very kind, but become fools. Others know how to abuse, misuse, make them fools. All the great virtues must work with some sort of intelligence. If there is no intelligence, at least some sort of understanding. Don't try to be too much, what you call, cultivate too much honesty, too much kindness, too much sympathy without understanding. You get into trouble. Because many people are cunning. Many people are selfish. Then you become the victims. When people come and ask something, telling all sort of cock and bull stories, oh, okay, never mind, I give you. After that, go to toddy shop. How many people come to the temple also like this? So it must be, then some others come and tell and ask some money for this, for that, all sorts of things, donation, unknown people. But we do not know what they will do with this. When you practice charity also, there must be some understanding. Don't do blindly, without understanding. You encourage people to be more cunning and more dangerous. So, tomorrow we have our all-night chanting. I think better to stop here. So try to come and listen at least for a few hours. You can, after that you can go home, have some blessings. So many monks, with their compassion and kindness and understanding, they come and recite what the Buddha has recited to bless you, to get rid of your certain problems and difficulties and misfortune. You may experience some sort of relief after that because of your devotion and confidence. What is your problem? I think this Reverend is expert, to answer this kind of question. Because he has a lot of metta, So you approach him and ask this question, go near. Yeah, he will answer. Come, get up. He knows better than me, Go near. So, what happened to the question, sir? Cannot understand. I think this question is not a joke. there's a deeper aspect in his questions. How one person continue life after life. All the development, cultivation, knowledge, purity, wisdom that started from the very beginning, don't know how many thousand, he mentioned only 555 stories. But we do not know how many thousands times. That is what I always try to explain. In our mind, there is one particular mental faculty which is called sankhara. But the English word is not very good. Mental concomitant, mental activities and mental formations, but these words cannot give the real idea. And modern psychologists have realized something related to this one, that is called collective consciousness. Collective consciousness. Close but not complete. That means accumulated consciousness, life after life. So in our mental energy, there are ingredients. So grasping power is there. Our knowledge, our habits, our nature, our virtues, our qualities, all absorbed into it. So when that consciousness with those ingredients departed from here after the death and again landed somewhere, then external elements and cosmic energies and so many things combined together, then started a life. But in that life, in the mind, the relinking consciousness, connection with the previous birth are there. That is how we maintain our habits, our nature, many of our behavior, our knowledge, because of this. Then going on developing is not deteriorating, either this way or that way. In our case, we wash, and again throw into mud. Again collect and wash, and again throw into mud. This is the nature of worldly life. Within this lifetime, we are trying to do good, to be good, this and that, but do not know what will happen to you in the next life. If environment, way of life, education, your life are not favorable for you to maintain, sustain, continue all the good work, then mix up with bad elements again. In the case of the Buddha, it's only one way. So that is how, that is strong determination, aspiration, will, strong will. Psychology also, modern psychology says, will. When we maintain a will, our life continues according to that will, that determination. So, his question is how the Buddha developed and gained enlightenment. There are more than 500 stories, only a little bit. But he mentioned in every time what he has done, how he has sacrificed his life to uphold his principle, his precept, his qualities, virtues, and then went on accumulating, developing until fully matured. Then gain his enlightenment. There's a link, unbroken link. So when we also maintain that a strong determination as our aspiration, will, then we also get more chances to get into the same line, not to go astray. That is the answer to this question. It's a very interesting question. Okay, so hearing on merit. Imina ब्रह्मा महाराज इंद्राच लोकपालाच देवता मित्ता मनुष्याच मध्यत्ता वेरिता पिच साध्वे सत्ता सुखी रंतु पुण्यानि पततानि मे सुखांच दिविदान्देन्तु हित्वां पापेत ओमतं पुण्यकामेन इमिना उद्दिसेन च हित्वां सुलभेतेव तन्नोपादान चेदनं ये संतानि नादम्मा याव निब्बानतो ममं नास्सन्तु धर्मदा एव यत्र जातो भवे भवे उजुचित्तो सत्तिपन्यो सल्लेत्वो विरियगामिना मारालपान्तु नोपासं तुञ्च